Welcome to the Retirement Roadmap by SHP Financial, a podcast empowering today's retirees and pre-retirees to make well-informed financial decisions that will help you spend more time living and dreaming than worrying and wondering. Join me, Matthew Peck, along with my co-hosts, Derek Gregoire and Keith Ellis, as we share actionable financial strategies and insights, as well as interview top thought leaders in the world of finance, accounting, and estate planning. This is all aimed at preparing you for the retirement you've always dreamed of. Our high-quality holistic planning process has helped thousands of families retire and create what we like to call the ripple effect. The Retirement Roadmap is your guide to financial freedom. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of SHP Financial's Retirement Roadmap podcast. I'm your host today, Matthew Peck, joined by partner Keith Ellis. And today we have a very special guest. We have Mara Bangura of Green Earth Organizing. So you might ask, okay, what is Green Earth Organizing? Well, that's a question we're going to dig into and answer in regards to providing professional organization and decluttering services. And so if you think about, financially how we approach our own planning, well, we want to make sure you have a well-organized financial plan. Well, Mara is here to tell us about having a well-organized life, a well-organized space, set and setting in your own environment. And so we'll certainly be, answering all those questions and the type of benefits that can bring you as you combine, a well-organized financial plan with a well-organized lifestyle, I guess. And I'll be curious how Mara will put it. But certainly thank you all for joining us today. And certainly thank you, Mara, for joining us. And welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being here. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, absolutely. So again, I want to hear all about it. It was funny. I went onto the website and I saw the National Association of Professional Organizers, NAPO.
Yes.
I didn't know NAPO existed. I've heard of NATO. I've heard of a couple other things. So tell us about what is a professional organizer and how do you get into that world?
So it's interesting. I always say that I'm a natural organizer. I've been doing it my whole life, whether it's been helping family members organize, friends, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. And so I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to try it. And I took some classes on NAPO, and I decided to reach out and contact other organizers who are a friendly bunch of people to see if they need extra help. And I had a couple of organizers hire me to help them, teach me the ropes. I asked questions, and I discovered I really enjoyed this work. I have my degree in early childhood education, which is, different working with young children than organizing, but there is that piece where when I meet with clients, I look at their individual learning styles and what works for their organizing, trajectory. There isn't a one-size-fits-all to organizing. It's really about the person and what works for them. Some people say, oh, I'm so unorganized, I'm messy, I'm this. Well, if you know where, where a certain pair of shoes are at all times, or you know where that bill is that you need to pay, well, you're in the realm of being organized. So it's what works for you. If you could put it in one word, what type of benefits do you see? And also take us through the different ages. Is it something that someone should look into when they're in their 20s to start this process, or kind of explain a little bit more about the environment itself and some of the benefits that it brings? Sure. You're never too young to learn how to organize, and that goes right down to my 9-year-old daughter, who I try and teach. And, at times it comes, at times it's really difficult, but just kind of getting into that cadence of what that means for you, all the way up through college age, into young adulthood, and later in life. And I think a huge part of organizing is decluttering the things that we accumulate.
Okay.
And making sure that, the things you have are the things that you need. And I have seen it myself. I know I feel it when I declutter. I am calm. My environment is, it's easy for me to access things. I'm more productive. I'm not wasting time searching for things. I know where things are. I know that, interesting fact is, generally, we use maybe 20% of anything in a given category, whether that's clothing. Typically, someone will only use 20%. Whether it's kitchen gadgets, someone will, typically use 20%. Name a category. That's generally, what happens. We forget about the other 80%. So, or it's just we bought it. Maybe we don't use it as much as we thought we would.
So what's the problem? Sorry, Keith.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of my favorite days of the year, and my wife's especially, she'll listen to this and be like, yes, is dumpster day. I mean, we literally just get a dumpster once a year and go through the house and be like, okay, we didn't even know we had half this stuff. Mm-hmm. Why do we need it? And then you feel so rewarded afterwards, and
right.
Your house is nice and, like you said, organized, and I don't know, it's just it's a calming feeling, like you said, to really go through, and especially as the kids age. And you're right about clothes. It's like you look at your closet, you're like, I still have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting that you said that.
But you actually have dumpster day? Really?
I do, yeah. Once a year.
I love it only because, certainly anytime there's renovations in your house, it's like, okay, hey, this is a great time. Let's fill up the dumpster. Yeah. And certainly anytime neighbors have
dumpsters,
I'm always knocking on their door.
That's usually what happens is the neighbors. I mean, we can't fill a whole dumpster. So, we don't have that much stuff, but our neighbors love it too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to really try and do, and the reason I named my company Green Earth Organizing, is that I want to take the things and try and donate them. Donate as much as possible to whether it's a Goodwill or the Epilepsy Foundation or Big Brother, Big Sister, or work with small nonprofits. So that's a huge part of what I do as well, is can we give a second life to these things that were once loved by a person or a family? How can we allow them to be loved again?
So then along the same lines, Mara, so that's let's just take dumpster day for a moment, right? So it's today's the day I really want to clean house, and maybe it's not as sort of brutal or immediate like that, but is it along those lines where you then create categories of, no, this is a dumpster, this is charity, this is keep? So is there what is the process?
Things that you're just, whether it's a recalled car seat, right? Or car seats in general. Unfortunately, it's really hard to find a way to give those away. But if something is in not great condition, sure, or you don't think that you could recycle it at your local dump, or a lot of clothes now, Goodwill will recycle clothing. So if it's torn or just not in good shape, you can put it in a plastic bag. They will recycle it. So things like that.
But is that how you approach it, though? If you're sitting with a client, or I guess, take us through the initial steps.
So if I'm sitting with a client, I will, if we're going through their things, I will definitely, ask them. I never throw anything away or take anything out of anybody's home without their consent. And I will have a bag of items that are going to be donated, clothing-wise, a bag of items that are going to be recycled. And I label it so I know the difference. And then when they get it at their end, they know the difference as well. And then whether it's, I have a place I donate books, or, and what are those books that are going to be donated? Papers are a huge thing. Having, piles and piles of papers from years past, what needs to be shredded, and setting up, a box of shredded, recycling, what needs to be filed. So helping clients set that up so that they can take bite-sized pieces out of organizing, their things, their life. How can we make this manageable? And that is the thing, is that you don't have to do this in a week. You don't have to do this, in a month. It's your process, and I often help my clients become accountable for that process.
Accountable in what way? Saying, okay, hey, we have a deadline, or
So
I mean,
today
because
you're
deadlines
meeting-
move people as much as they're
Right.
scary. They do
So-
get people
Exactly.
to act.
Right. So you have a meeting with me today. I'm going to be there for at least 3 hours. I go into the meeting with a plan of, based on our conversation, these are the things that you would like, to work on. This is a room you'd like to work on. Let's, do X, Y, and Z to move us towards that end goal. And I talk about goals with clients. What do they want? Why are they hiring me? What do they want from my services? I go into a person's home, and I will meet with them, for however long they need to meet. And we talk about what their goals are and why they're hiring me. And then I can create a plan for them in terms of organizing.
And I guess the other question is sort of about the process too, because you mentioned the 20% rule.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, if I'm looking at my closet or whomever it is there a rule? 'Cause I remember with the clothes, I remember hearing a rule back in the day with clothes, which was like, okay, if you haven't worn this in a year, get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, are there rules of thumbs when it comes to, I think tax returns are 5 years, right? I'm just trying to think of like all the different rules of
Right,
thumb when
yeah.
it comes to, okay, what you should hold on to and where you can make that that determination of whether it's going
Yeah.
or staying.
So, if you are a person that's having trouble letting go of some things, you can, you might gather a couple of those things, put it in a Tupperware, like a big utility bin or something, put it in your basement, check it in 3 months, have you wanted to go use those things? Maybe it's 6 months for you. If you haven't thought about anything in that tub in 3 or 6 months, you can probably safely get rid of it. I mean, that's one thing that you can do.
Wow.
Deciding if you want to hold on to something, give yourself, whether it's 30 days, 60 days. If you haven't worn it, you haven't used it in your kitchen, you never use your Cuisinart, but you like having it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go.
Maybe don't feel bad. And a lot of times, something like that, maybe it was given as a wedding gift. And so you
Yeah.
feel this guilt. And not just with that, but also furniture that you've gotten from family members, and you feel this guilt that you have to hold on to it,
Oh,
but you
God,
have
yes.
no use for it. Let yourself be okay with saying, you know what, I don't need this in my life.
Do I have to
haven't
tell
used
Aunt
it.
Elma that I got rid of it though?
I was just
or-
thinking of 3 chairs in my house.
I had off air, I mentioned sort of this philosophy that has come from Sweden called death cleaning.
Okay, death cleaning.
Death cleaning,
Okay.
which sounds really scary.
It does.
And not, there's a book out now called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. There's, a show about it. But essentially the philosophy that I think is newer to Americans is that, take the time to go through your things and give yourself the agency to get rid of them in a way that you want them to be, dispersed, whether it's through a charity that you really like, whether it's giving something special, asking, your niece or your great niece or great nephew, would you like this? This was handed down, this has been in our family, I would like to give it to you. And if they say no, you can decide to keep it or, take a photo of it. And there's all these great apps out there now too, where you can write why something's important to you, take a photo, and write that down, and you have a picture of it. And that memory, because I think a lot of people are worried about losing that memory and what that meant to them. Mm-hmm. And then just to, so to get back to Swedish death cleaning, it's a way that at any age, you don't have to be in your later years. You can be midlife, you can be, your early 30s, and going through your things and saying, if, would I want this? If something happened to me today, my family is going to be left with having to decide where everything goes and having to declutter my life for me. How can I make that easier? There's legacy you want to leave and legacies you don't want to leave. And if we're not in control of our decluttering, then not only are we maybe leaving unwanted things to our family, but we're also leaving them, it's expensive. Right. It's expensive, after someone passes and trying to figure out what to do with their things. Of course, it's emotional too. And when you pair that emotional piece with that heavy decision making, it's a challenge. And so, what are ways that we can make things easier for our loved ones after, we're gone?
Yeah,
So
I remember when my grandmother passed, and the family got together at her condo, and all the kids got to go around and one by one just put labels on. This uncle got this first pick. As weird as it sounds, second pick, third pick, fourth pick. Kind of went back and forth until everything was kind of marked. I'm not sure if that's the way she wanted things to go, but it was kind of the only way that we as a family could decide to kind of declutter. A lot of it did go, like, I know I made the joke earlier about dumpster day, but we give tons of books to charity, and yeah, they do a ton of recycling. We just call it dumpster day as a family because it's like us really cleansing ourselves of things that we don't necessarily need. But I'm not sure if my grandmother thought that was the way that things would be done, but that was the only way we could think to do it. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting process, to say the least.
Yeah, and so how often, do you see a lot of your clients ending up in that 75, 80, 85, or even after the fact? I guess when, just in your own experience, how often is it, you're stepping in after the person has passed?
Right, and I've had that experience where, I've gone, with a team of organizers, I've gone into people's homes after they've passed and the family is distraught. They might not live in the state, they're very emotional, but it's just so emotionally overwhelming that they don't know where to begin, because they're, maybe it's their parents and they lived in their home for 45 years. And so they call in organizers to help them declutter, and they might say something like, we really just want photos, or we're really looking for this item, but everything else can be donated. Mm-hmm. So that...
And do you help, is it one of those things where and it just popped in my mind, where if something is going off to maybe not the family auction that Keith was describing, but, an estate sale. I've heard terms like, you have an estate sale. So do you work with auctioneers? I don't even know if that's the right way of putting it.
There are organizers that do work with estate sales. I don't currently offer that service, but there are organizers that do that will work with auction houses, or we'll do estate sales. And those are really great options as well. Even when a person is alive, you can do it at any time. It's not, you can do that as well. And that's a great way to, generate a little extra income, but you're also decluttering your possessions as well.
Yeah, and I must be curious. We talked a little bit offline about how the different mentalities too, about how that changes, about how, all of our grandparents either were, grew up in the Depression, or obviously made it through World War II. And that's going to leave a mark in regards to your hoarding or, cluttering versus decluttering system. So, or just, sort of like how you're wired at that point. Right. And have you seen that type of mentalities, of older mentalities and younger, and different outlooks when it comes to clutter and decluttering?
Yeah, I would say that the younger generations, from my experience, they have more consumables, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about the way earlier about how furniture's made. It's not made the same way anymore. Right. You don't have that woodworking craftsmanship, with the dovetail. Like whenever you hear dovetail, now you're like, oh, that's quality, right? Yeah. But it's so I think definitely the younger generation with the older generation, there's a lot of memories tied. And when you think of too, the social media that we have and photos and videos on our phone, older generations don't have that documentation, right? And so a lot of things, this is just my opinion, I think are tied to the physical items. So what are some things that can then move somebody forward? And sometimes it's a lot of just, talking and kind of really getting to the bottom of why is this piece difficult to let go of? What isn't? Let's talk about that and see. Yeah.
Do you think social media is going to play a big part in regards to decluttering? Because I know my wife, for example, uses the marketplace to sell X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Like you said, to declutter, but also not just have it go to a dump, a dump, or someone else can see value in that, and in that, I think that is a nice. You can get it at a discount.
And also, just a little aside, I have had dumpster day at my house too.
Okay. I'm not feeling guilty.
And that was before I got into organizing and understood and really researched where can I give things to, who accepts what. So it was before I had that, that knowledge of that. I have had that. I'm going to put myself out there,
There we go. This is very helpful for me.
Yeah. But yeah, and also I think a big takeaway is go at your own pace, right? I always say take little bites. So do what feels manageable. Start in one room, one corner of the room, start just maybe with your closet, or if you don't want this piece of furniture, that's a big thing you can get rid of. Okay. So.
Well, I just wonder too, I'm just thinking, obviously you always look through the prism of your own lives, and it's like, okay, kids, because I'm blessed with 4 kids.
A lot of clutter.
A lot of clutter. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, I would love this process, although I'm not sure if if the 7-year-old to a 13-year-old. So I have 4 between 7 and 13. And the thought is, okay, I'd love to declutter right now, because literally, I'm not sure if your boys do this, but Prime energy drink, he holds on
everywhere,
and he holds on to the bottle.
Yes,
like the bottle. It's like drinking Gatorade and just saying like, not only did I drink this, I'm going to hold on to this recyclable plastic bottle.
We have a shelf of Prime energy bottles.
Okay. All right, so Mara, I don't know. You have a 9-year-old daughter, so I don't know if.
Well, she likes Prime.
There we go.
But it's just more the idea that I can imagine it being a little bit easier the older you get. But correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, tell me, is that something that you can necessarily almost talk about a legacy you want to leave?
Right.
Is that something that you can almost get your kids into as well?
Yes, definitely. One thing that I like to do is in my own house. So our living room gets just, my daughter brings everything upstairs from her room, brings it downstairs, drives me nuts, So what I do is I have a laundry basket of things, or a laundry basket empty. And, I ask her, just put all your things in that laundry basket. When it gets full, or to the point where I think it's full, we're going to bring that upstairs. You're going to put it in the places where it belongs.
Okay. Yeah.
So kind of like having that place to house.
I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Because I do the exact same thing.
Oh,
yeah.
See, there you go. Good job.
Thanks. Feel good about myself now. But yeah, I mean, it's like when the kids bring everything down, you're right. It just runs all over your house. And I always needed that central place to be able to put things, to have it look at least somewhat clean and organized. And like you said, once that laundry basket's full or whatever, bring it upstairs and put it away. And then they learn to put stuff away. Their room is a complete disaster. That's another story.
But then you just shut the door.
There. Yeah, that's what I do. Again, this is great. I'm doing awesome.
Well, and the point is, I think, kids are going to be kids. You also want to give them that leeway, and you don't want, as parents, we have the Charlie Brown teacher voice, right? Want, 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 want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you don't want that to happen. So you have to kind of tread lightly, figure out where are their strengths, and what do they like to, maybe it's the Prime energy drinks. So maybe
Drinking them is their strength. Yes.
But the bottles, maybe you have, a specific shelf that they live on. Once that shelf is full, then maybe we have to think about, let's decide
which
pick
one
two
stays
that are going to be
right.
recycled. And so giving them kind of that choice within a choice, so that they're making the choice, but you're kind of giving the guidelines to that. Maybe that's where my teacherness comes in.
Yeah, kind of comes back out.
But
last question, just to pivot very quickly, is two more, but this is something you also do for businesses. I think I saw on your website.
So I'm working with two businesses right now. I can, organize a backstock room, and I'm doing that right now for a business where they need some help just organizing the things that they have in the back to be put on the floor. So I'm helping them with a system to do that, and I'm working with my local public library to help them with a project that they're doing for Library of Things. So
excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is something that obviously not just personal,
Right.
but this is something businesses can necessarily consider as well.
Right, exactly. And obviously, depending on the needs of the business, it's a little bit different. It's not always decluttering, but it's planning sort of, that step by step of your need and how you want to go about doing that to be more organized, because organization leads to productivity, right? So your staff members are less time figuring out, where's this item, what's this? They know where it is, they can get it, they can get back to working and doing what they need to do. And really throughout any part, not just business, but your personal life, productivity as well.
Right. And again,
So,
just
less
the
time
hours.
looking,
Less
yeah.
time looking, more time doing. Well, and the last question I was asked too is just about the books. I mean, I thought there was like The Joy of Less, and there's a number of decluttering books. And I think The Joy of Less is the biggest one of recent history. But is there one that you highly recommend, or that you like reading yourself, that you would provide to the listeners?
So I did just finish reading The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning.
Okay.
The name of the author is escaping me. Her first name
If
starts
it's-
with an M. The last name starts with an
Swedish,
M.
there's going to be a lot of, and forgive us all the Swedish listeners, there's a lot of vowels and consonants and...
But I think that really spoke to me, not only as an organizer, but personally, where, in the last 2 years, I lost both my parents. And so it really spoke to me in terms of, okay, what do I want as a legacy for my daughter? What are the things I need to get, in order, so that she has she's not left with my stuff,
Well, and I think as not to broaden the conversation too much, but I think as a society, or like American society, needs to get better at talking about death, because it's almost like occasionally, and we certainly talk about it, Keith and myself, in regards to estate planning and with clients and whatnot, but it is going to happen. And so whether it's that necklace or this heirloom or what have you, having the conversations now versus after, I know they're uncomfortable, and as you were saying earlier, your niece or nephew, whomever, might say, no, I don't want that, which would be kind of hurtful, right? But at the same point,
At least you know.
at least you know, and it's having those conversations now, while you're living, while you're healthy, is just such a better way of approaching what is inevitable, whether we like it or not. We'll kind of end on that. I started to add on such a relatively sad note, but at the same time, it's to get organizing, to get your house in order, your life in order. And as Mara was saying about productivity, right? We talk about how much more the calming sense of having your financial plan in order, right? And knowing where your income is coming from, and knowing what the tax plan is going to be. Imagine having that in your household, or in your parents' household, if they are if they're the needle tends toward more of a hoarders than not. And Mara, real quick, I imagine if you probably don't watch any of the hoarder shows, that probably gives you nightmares.
I don't. I do not watch. I actually don't watch any of the reality TV organizing programs.
Yeah.
But
separate it.
I mean, I think too, the one thing just to add to what you're saying is that wellness too in organizing, and that sense of calm, the sense of accomplishment. Just your environment is so much of your your mental health as well, right? So just just adding to all of that as well.
No, absolutely. So it's Mara Bangura of Green Earth Organizing. Thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Certainly hope our listeners appreciate it too. And thanks again for listening to the SHP Retirement Roadmap. And stay tuned for the next one. And we certainly wish you all very well.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Roadmap podcast by SHP Financial. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you've liked what you heard, please share the show. Create your own little ripples so we can help even more people with their retirement goals. If you want access to all past interviews, including notes, resources, and exclusive content from SHP Financial, visit shpfinancial.com/podcast. Thanks again for joining us on the Retirement Roadmap podcast. And for all the attorneys out there and disclaimers and disclosures, I'm just going to put on my super serious voice and add our own. No statements made during the Retirement Roadmap podcast shall constitute tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own legal or tax professional on any such matters. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Our investment advisory services are offered through SHP Wealth Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance sales are offered through SHP Financial, LLC. Our advisors and insurance reps may offer clients advice and/or products from each entity. No client is under any obligation to purchase any insurance product.